Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and today we got a hot one for you. This is going to be a two-part series where we focus on talking about the top 5 marches. Specifically, this video will be covering pay to win, and then the next video is going to be covering free to play. We're going to give you a breakdown of the marches, we'll explain why, and then I'm going to show you a little bit of, I don't know if it's due diligence, but nice prefacing here. So remember, before we get started, right, as always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you sub, like, ring the notification bell. If you want to join and be a part of our conversation, hit up the Discord. You can find a link to that in the pinned comment description right down below. And remember, we got new videos coming out every day at 14 UTC, in-game time, by the way, which is going to be found in the top right corner, something that you'll be able to see if you look here, top right. With that in mind, this, and then again, 9 a.m. Eastern outside of game time. But with all of that said, let me explain a couple things before we actually get into the pairings. So it is important to take note that there are currently, and we'll show you that here, which is 17 legendary heroes. With that, there are 3 of these heroes that are kind of non-specific focused, right? We've touched on these before. This would be Hosk. This would be Eliana, right, who's kind of overall. And then I believe we have one more we're missing, and then Indus. So, right, you have 14 out of 17 heroes between legendaries and epics that are more so for like specific use as far as general, right? Again, you could argue Hosk is really more rally. Indus is probably more gather support, and then Eliana is more PvE peacekeeping, right, with a little bit more flexibility for her. But when we get into the pay-to-win comps, right, and this is me, I'm on the hero pairing section, we want to try to identify, right, if you're willing to spend whatever it may be, right, what would really be the best comps to run at this time. So we're going to start off first with going over these ones for you. So the first comp I have is going to be Empress Bakshi. So Empress here, Cav PvP mobility, and then we have Bakshi here who's Cav peacekeeping skills. Now, you can argue running Bakshi as a primary and then diving into Cav and to the skills tree, which to me seems like it could be just as doable, a little more doable than running Empress primary, which would give you, well, and it depends, because you could run Cav PvP with Empress, and that actually might be just as ideal, right? That's something that, of course, you have to test and see which, again, if you are valuing the PvP side or are you valuing the skills side, along with, do you even care about mobility because of the fact that, you know, again, Cav is already going to have the fastest unit speed, right, in the game between all of the troop types, again with speed decreasing as you go up in tier for units, and you can see that reflected here, right? So if we were to look at the beast pen, right, and I click on this, you can see that here at T1 march speed, or sorry, T2 is 242. As I go up 230, 219, 208, again still faster than the other units, even if you were to compare flying as an example, right, you're 144, 137, right, it goes down. So you know that Cav is going to be the fastest unit out there. It's just a matter of do you feel a need to invest into mobility, or are you going to value PvP or skills? That's just something you have to look at on the tree. Then we get into the second one here for me, which is going to be Madeleine Nika. Right, so I think Madeleine Nika, running Madeleine primary, is really good. Madeleine, arguably, you know, I'd say one of the best, if not the best, hero in the game right now, just when it comes to versatility, the skill set, again, having so much shield usage too as well for this, the physical attack bonus. I mean, there's just a lot of general skills that can be applied as well, even if you don't care about going and diving into infantry. So this is something that I think would really be the next best comp. So you have Madeleine kind of running your infantry tank, right, and you got good counterattack damage here, and then you let Nika go ahead and be your secondary, right? So you don't really have to worry about the skill tree. Now, what's funny is you could actually run Nika primary and Madeleine secondary if you wanted more damage, right? Because then you're able to dive into infantry skills, right? Compared to going into either tank. I guess arguably you could go PvP as well. So, I mean, again, running Madeleine primary I think is more the ideal choice. And then you just have Nika for really good damage sustain, right, that you're able to get. And remember that you can run Madeleine Nika if you just want more damage. You can run Madeleine Garwood, Madeleine Indus, right? Those are options as well if you want to go a little bit more sustained tank, lasting longer throughout a fight. But I like the idea of Madeleine Nika if you're really just trying to get in there and do a bunch of damage as infantry and then kind of get a nice little hybrid comp. Then we get into our mage comp, which is pretty standard here, right? This is kind of running your Lilia Waldir, right, where you have magic and skills. And then if we go up to Waldir, right, you got magic PvP skills. So I've seen some and quite a few running Waldir Lilia. And that's probably because they might want to go into the magic and PvP tree or the PvP tree versus the skills tree. That's just something you'll have to test out and see what is more viable for you. Because remember, everything applies, right? All the skills, the actual level, legion capacities, it's just the difference in talent trees, right, on which ones you have access to. So, again, I've seen quite a few Waldir Lilias, but I've also seen Lilia Waldirs on the field. So, again, the biggest difference here on what you would want to test is, do you value the PvP tree, right, or do you value the skills tree a little bit more here? Then we get into our next one, which is going to be Nico Guanwin, right? I've been seeing a lot of Nico Guanwins being ran. I've seen some Guanwin Nikos as well. This is something that you just have to value, right? Are you looking for marksman precision when it comes to that? Or are you looking for marksman precision? So yeah, I guess at this point it doesn't really matter because it's the same tree. They have essentially the same skill set, which is actually kind of funny, with the exception of engineering versus peacekeeping. So really at this point, you can run whatever you want, right? I've seen quite a few running Nico Guanwin. I've seen a few running Guanwin Nico. So whatever your preference is there, it's not really necessarily going to matter too much. But that would be our, fourth pairing. Now, our last pairing here is, and this is somewhat interesting for me because there are a few ways you can go, right? I'm going to give you two options, but I'm going to tell you what I think my preference would be. And I'm going to explain why. So my next one here is actually going to be Alwyn, and then being complemented here by Hosk. Now, for those of you who may not know, right, Hosk actually is a really good secondary. He has a skill here that is Battle Scar, where it says increases Legion's defense by 10% when Hosk is commanded. This goes up to 25%. And their normal attack damage by 15%, up to 40% when Hosk is deputy, right? So this is something that I think is really good when you're looking. He also has a capacity increase here, right, which can give you 10k more. And it's just something that I think you can really complement. Hosk is just a nice flex pick, very similar to Eliana and Indus in quite a few regards, where you can really have them as a nice complementary piece there within your Legion. And by running Alwyn, you get a second magic comp at range. So with this pay-to-win setup, you would have 3 ranged comps, 2 mage, 1 archer, and then you would have a cav comp with Empress Bakshi, and then you'd have a infantry comp, right, with Madeleine Nika. So again, and I want to point out, right, you can do different things. We're just strictly talking about right now, right, what would be like the 5 best comps or 5 best pay-to-win legions that you can really run right now, right, in this moment. And it doesn't necessarily mean that every legendary unit, right, needs to be used or is going to be the best thing to do. This just kind of shows you one way that you can run it. You can still get away with trying to run, if you want 4, archer, if you want to try to run as many archers as you can, and then you just complement them with other pieces. Same thing with mages, right? You can do those types of things if you want to get 3 to 4 mages or 3 to 4 archer legions out on the field. But if we're just talking about what do we think are the best comps right now for pay to win, that's where I'm going. Now the flex I don't say flex option, but my 6th option, right, if you really care to dive into flying, now this is pretty standard. I think we've been seeing a lot of Atheists and Craigs being ran here when it comes to flying, right? And on one side you're really seeing Atheist ran primary for the magic PvP, just because Craig really just has marksman mobility, so you're kind of double dipping more on damage with Atheist primary. So again, with that in mind, right, how much do you value flying? Do you think that is, maybe better than running something like a Alwyn Hosk? I guess it depends. I like the reason I like running that is because not only does it give you another mage, but it gives you a little bit more easier field of control on the map, right? Where you're not having to run, like your two outliers, really for the most part, are kind of your non-ranged, right? That's where you're kind of going to be more heavy micro, where you're going to have to micro the flying, you have to micro the infantry, and you'll have to micro the cav, on top of if you're running 2 or 3 mages, right? So you have 2 to 3 additional points of you're having to kind of micro on the field. So for me, I think when you can kind of keep it a little more simple and, an example, I eventually what I really see the game going towards is, people running more specialties. You're going to run 5 tank units. You're going to run 5 mages. You're going to run 5 archers. You're going to run mix of archers, mages. You're going to run 5 flying, right? These types of things is really where I see where you're going to run 5 cav. This is really where I think I see the game going, and as more heroes come out. And again, right, this is just my opinion on what I think, are the 5 best and could be the best legions for pay-to-win players, right, if you decide to spend. However, I'm sure there might be a few different flex options or flex picks or just different variances of opinions on other pairings that can be run. And if so, if you're someone who spends, I'd love to hear. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. That is going to be it for me, as always, right? I hope you guys enjoy. Until next time, I will catch you later.